You guys need to be prepared for this new real estate information coming up. You're going to want to watch this. What's going on, my YouTube friends? This is Jerry Abbott, your #1 real estate resource here in Las Vegas. Hey guys, a couple of things before we dive into the video. Number one, if this is your first time to the channel and you want to learn the cold hard facts about Las Vegas real estate, then definitely subscribe to the channel down below. Number two, make sure to give me a thumbs up like, guys. That would really help the channel out. And number three, last Saturday, guys, when I released my video, I had said that I would no longer be working in the real estate business or with clients directly. That was last Saturday, April 1st, and it was an April Fool's joke, guys. So I am definitely still in the business. I am still working with clients. So when the timing is right for you guys to potentially relocate to beautiful Las Vegas, whether it's next month or next year, definitely reach out to me. You can just call, text, or email me anytime, and I'll help you find that perfect dream home when the timing is right for you guys. Let's dive into the video. All right, so in the upcoming segments, we're going to talk about the real estate market in general and specific to Las Vegas. But the real elephant in the room, the big question a lot of people keep asking is, why hasn't the real estate market crashed yet, considering that the Fed continues to keep raising rates? The rates have been going up, which means there's less buyers qualifying for homes. So that's become much more challenging. So a lot of people are wondering why home prices are not dropping. One of the reasons why on the other side is there's a bit of a tug of war going on between buyers and sellers. The sellers, most of them, have an interest rate below 3.5% or 4%. So now that we have interest rates at around 7%, sellers do not want to sell their homes right now, because if they do, they're going to have to buy into a new home at a much higher interest rate. So there's definitely been a little bit of a tug of war going on here in terms of what's happening in the overall real estate market. In the upcoming segments, you're going to see why I think over time, the real estate market is going to finally come down. Sellers and home builders are going to capitulate on prices. So let's get to that segment right now. All right, so let's take a look at this quick video segment. I want you guys to watch this. This is from CNBC television that came out last week. They were interviewing the Redfin CEO, talking about how the banking crisis from a couple of weeks ago has spooked home buyers and the housing market in general. Let's just watch this real quick, and then I'm going to come back and comment on it in just a minute.
Revealing another slowdown in home prices. Today's Case-Shiller index showing the 7th decline in a row on a monthly basis as mortgage rates remain stubbornly high. And tomorrow we're going to get pending home sales along with weekly mortgage application. Here to discuss what he's seeing in the housing market is Redfin CEO Glenn Kelman. Glenn, we can talk about prices coming down, but inventories are still so low. If you've had your house for more than 10 minutes, do you really have to sweat it?
Inventory is really low, so new listings are down 25%. So even as homebuyer demand has declined because of higher interest rates, it's affected sellers even more. If you refinanced your home at a 2.5% rate, you're going to hold on to that for the next 30 years. It's really hard to coax sellers into the market. The only people who are moving are the ones who are moving across the country, not across town.
So have we ever seen a market like this, and how much of this rests on what happens with the labor picture? As long as people are employed and think they'll be able to pay that mortgage, hey, maybe they'll just shift into an ARM instead, expecting rates to come down, but they'll still buy?
Well, I think the major issue has been interest rates. So the housing market has reacted poorly almost to any good news about employment or prices, because if we see that people have jobs, we know that the Fed is going to be hard on interest rates, and that's going to affect home buyer demand as well as supply. What's really changed over the past 2 or 3 weeks has been the banking crisis. Some of our customers have just gotten spooked by that, and they're trying to figure out where the economy is going. You just have to remember that people are making a 10-year commitment to a house, and they're trying to figure out what's going to happen in the next 10 minutes to the U.S. economy. So I think it's interest rates and the banking crisis, not just rates. And that's a new twist in housing.
All right, so let's unpack that a little bit. Like I said earlier in the video, there's a bit of a tug of war going on between buyers and sellers. Obviously, a lot of buyers can't qualify to buy now because interest rates have been soaring in the last several months. But on the selling side, sellers that have 3% interest rates don't want to buy a new home right now after they sell their home and buy into those 7% interest rates now. So there's definitely a bit of a tug of war. But here's the thing, guys. You're going to see in the upcoming segments, there's a lot of issues going on in the economy. There's a lot of potential bad data that can be coming out in the next few months. And like what happened a couple of weeks ago with the banking crisis, if interest rates continue to go up, and they likely will because the Fed has said they're going to raise rates, that's going to make it even harder for buyers to qualify for homes. And I think buyer demand going down is going to usurp the sellers that are not willing to sell into these higher interest rates. Let's take a look at the next segment. All right, let's take a look at this article that came out last month. This is from bankrate.com. You can see the top headline here saying, is the housing market about to crash? Here's what experts say. So what I want to do here is I want to scroll down because the article is fairly long, but I want you guys to first just take a look at this right here. I want you guys to take a look where it says existing home prices here and take a look at this map. Now this little chart right here is from March 2020 to February 2023, so almost to the present day, because the way they're looking at this chart is basically the entire time of the pandemic. So let's take a look at what housing prices did since the start of the pandemic. So if you take a look right here, the median home price March 1st of 2020, right as the pandemic was starting, was about $280,000 for the median home price. Now as we scroll through here, we get to the first year here after the pandemic. Home prices then went up to $303,000 on average. So $303,000 after that first year, really, when we got into the pandemic. Then we go up here, and you can see how it's elevating here, and we get to right here. January 2022, home prices there are now $354,000. That was the start of January of 2022 of the last year. Then what happens here is it spikes even more. Goes all the way up to a peak level of about $413,000 in June of last year. That was the peak level, and then interest rates really started to go up, and now here's where it's all starting to come down, and it's leveling right here, right now for the time being, down to $360,000. So basically you can see that prices have gone up dramatically here, and then of course they started to fall as rates went up. So right here is that window to determine where prices are going to go, and people are saying that it might go down a little lower or it might go up. So take a look at this right here. Experts say home prices could fall. Here's the first quote in case you can't read it. Most markets are going to experience price declines in the high single digits. Home price declines of 8 to 9% would create some economic pain, to be sure. So experts here are predicting in 2023 that we could see 8 or 9% declines. I actually think it might be more than that as we go through this year because rates are going to stay elevated. I think it's going to diminish the buyer pool, like I said in the earlier clip, and it's just going to be a very challenging time for buyers to be able to buy homes when prices are going down. Being patient right now is the prudent play. All right, let's take a look at this article. Now, this headline says it all. Housing affordability is at the lowest level in over a decade. Typical Americans are paying $607 more per month to own a median. All right, let's take a look at this article. Now, this headline says it all. Housing affordability is at the lowest level in over a decade. Typical Americans are paying $607 more per month to own a median price home. Now, if we scroll down here, I want you guys to take a look at this chart. This chart pretty much is the housing affordability chart that's on the decline for the last 3 years since basically the start of the pandemic. So if you take a look right there in the bottom left, it says in 2020, about 29% of your gross income was going towards owning a medium price home. Now, if we scroll through here a little bit, you can see as it spiked up here during this inflationary time, you could see that it was hitting right now at about 43%. So 43% of your total income now goes towards your housing costs to afford a medium price home. So again, I just wanted you guys to see how challenging it is for millions of people out there because inflation has made it very difficult for people to own a home now in this market. All right, so this is an interesting graphic that just came out from a major real estate website company talking about the top cities in the United States that have had the largest home price declines since the peak levels of last year. So let's just go through a few of these on the list. Number one on the list is Boise, Idaho. It's down 13% from peak prices of last year. Then you've got San Francisco at about 11%. You've got Seattle at about 9%. You've got right here Salt Lake City at about 7.5%. And right here in my neck of the woods in Las Vegas, it says it's down about 7.5%. I just want to stop there for 1 second. Las Vegas is down more like around 12%. So these numbers are actually low. You could probably add maybe 3 to 4%. But again, even though prices are coming down in a lot of these major cities, the price levels still are about 40% inflated since the start of the pandemic. So that's why I think prices still have room to come down because now that we have high interest rates and buyers are not able to qualify as much, these prices, although they're dropping, we're still up a good 30-40% in a lot of major cities. So again, I think being patient, again, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, there's definitely more room for these numbers to keep dropping in a lot of these major cities. All right, this is the last and most important graphic of the video that I wanted you guys to take a look at. This is from a website called Wolf Street. This just came out right at the very end of March, this article, and I want you guys to really pay particular attention to certain parts of this graphic because this goes back to what I said at the very beginning of the video where you guys saw my headline where it said, be prepared for this. This is what I want you guys to prepare for. Let's first take a look at the headline where it says, the most splendid housing bubbles in America, March update, talking about biggest price drops now in Las Vegas, San Francisco, Seattle, Phoenix, Dallas, and Denver. So let's just take a look at this first. I'm going to show you a couple things here. Take a look at San Francisco. Now this goes back, this chart right here, 20 years ago, where it says housing bubble 1, and now we're in housing bubble 2. If you take a look at the peak levels right here, this was about 2007, and then you see it falls right off a cliff in that last year, down to about 2009, 2010. So this drop took about 2 or 3 years to happen. Now, we get to the peak levels right here in the top right. You can see how high it went, and now we're starting to come back down right there. But again, this has only been about 9 or 10 months or so since this level here. This one right here took about 2 years or so. This one right here is only about 9 or 10 months. So again, these cycles take longer for prices to come down. Now let's scroll down a little bit more. I want you guys to take a look at this. Now again, month-to-month basis, Las Vegas, where I happen to be located, down 1.4%. These are small numbers, but again, these are the drops in just 1 month period of time. Now, if we scroll down a little bit more, this goes back from the previous clip showing the price drops from the respective peak levels, the highest levels right here. San Francisco, 17%. Now in the last graphic, it was much lower, but you can see these numbers are very high. 16% in Seattle, San Diego, about 11%, where I'm located, about 10%. Again, these are pretty big drops, but again, I want you guys to take a look at this, especially here in Las Vegas. They go through a lot of these graphics with a lot of different cities here, but I want you to just take a look at this right here. Las Vegas got annihilated in the last situation here. Now let's take a look. Housing bubble right here. This was the most dramatic of all the cities. Right here at the peak level where I'm moving the arrow, that was around 2007, and then it just literally fell off a cliff all the way down to about 2010. But this took about 3 years to happen. Then we've spiked all the way back up right here to the top right, and now we've come down to right about there in about a 10-month window. So if you see right here that it takes 3 years or so for this to really hit the bottom, we've really only just begun if this housing bubble is going to match what the previous housing bubble is. And again, guys, housing bubbles typically take time to fully unwind. It doesn't take 6 months or a year. It can take 3-4 years. So I wanted you guys to take a look at these graphics, especially here in Las Vegas, that prices are coming down, but they really have a lot more room to come down, in my opinion, because housing bubbles take time to finally unfold to get to those lower levels. So there you have it, guys. My personal opinion is that home prices still have a lot more room to come down based on the economic data that I just presented to you guys. I think it is going to be a slow grind down. We're not going to crash and fall off a cliff tomorrow morning. But I think what's happening now is that because we have these sustained elevated interest rates and that the Fed is likely to raise rates again, that is going to diminish the buyer pool more so than sellers sitting on the sideline not wanting to sell their homes into these higher interest rates. I think it's going to take time. I think it's going to take the rest of this year and well into 2024 or more. So if you can, be patient if you're thinking about buying a home, because I think down the line, home prices are definitely going to recede. All right, before we end the video, as promised from last week, I wanted you guys to leave me a cool or creative comment, and I received hundreds of them, and I was going to give a shout out to my favorite comment. So the shout out from last week's video goes to Mad Walu. He was the only person that got my message at the beginning of last week's video where I talked about how I was not going to be in the real estate business anymore because I really am, and it was an April Fool's joke. So he gets the shout out for this week. So if you guys want to leave a cool or creative comment, and the one that I like the most in next week's video, I'm going to make sure you guys get a shout out in the following video coming up in the next week. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I also hope you appreciate my transparency. Like I've always said, I'm going to keep it 100% real at all times regarding the real estate market on this channel and specific to Las Vegas, where I happen to be located. So with that said, guys, if you are thinking about relocating to beautiful Las Vegas, whether it's next month or next year, I've got your back. I'm a local real estate agent here. I've lived here for nearly 20 years. Take your time, be patient, and when that time is right, just call, text, or email me anytime, and I'll help you find that perfect dream home. I'll see you guys in the next video.